running. And so this is show 20, following from show 19, where I think I said it was show 18.
I think so.
But anyway, we need to finish, get to the crux, because we didn't wrap up what's so important about Charmaine. Yes.
She focuses in on being the single human being that has hurt me more than any other. And therefore, like a salmon going up to spawn, you go against the bears and you go against all of the dreadful things that make the reward of the fish when it gets up to spawn and then dies for its young. So you go against the natural instinct to run away from terror and go towards it, is what I did. So I've led my life like that. And it's got us to the point where we're now talking to the saints, and anyone who is righteous will see what we're doing is coming directly from the Almighty. Now, the distance that the stars measuring from Jupiter to Saturn to Mars to the Earth to Venus to Mercury and the Sun on the day that she was born is 3907.
39.07
astronomical units.
Yes, which is the value of the verse that we've been focusing on from the Essene Revelation, which is the third seal. I'll just read it again. And I opened this third seal, and I beheld the angel of the sun, and between her lips flowed the light of life. And she knelt over the earth and gave to man the fires of power, and the strength of the sun entered the heart of man. And he took the power and made with it a false sun, and he spread the fires of destruction, burning the forests, laying waste the green valleys, leaving only charred bones of his brothers.
So in other words, the fallen angels that, if you read your Old Testament Genesis, the fallen angels saw the daughters of men. Now the difference is an angel is not a human being, it's a demon. Once an angel falls to the will of its desires, it influences the daughters of men, who then have become demonized, and they produce giants, which are a theme of the Old Testament with David and Goliath and this type of thing. But the reality is that when you are an offspring of the daughters of men that have become demonized, they bring with that offspring, the demons, the creation of all things evil. Everything from cannibalism to creating weapons of war. So, with the daughter that hurt me the most, or the human being that hurt me the most, was Charmaine, and therefore the difference in age between, had I not taken her on, even though there's a possibility I wasn't the father, it didn't matter. Her soul is mine. And the difference in age between her and the next child is 6.66 years. So there's your beast revelation. So what she was able, by being conceived on June the 1st, 1970, the measurement of the planets in astronomical units from Jupiter right through to the Sun. First off, my body weight on all of those planets is the area of the Shroud of Turin, when 1 square inch equals 1 pound. So 7,353 pounds is what I weigh as a man of 222 pounds, which I've always weighed that amount. No matter what I do, I'm the same weight. And that is what the Pope recognised, Pope Benedict. Now, it's not a matter whether the whole Church or Francis or anyone else recognises it. For the first time in history, a Pope recognised that I was Christ. And he described me as being the face of the Shroud of Turin, which it is. And that is the soul of Yahweh that was imprinted into the image when the soul came back into the body of Jesus in the tomb, and the imprint is left on the outside of the shroud, not the inside. And every researcher assumes that the spear went in the right side, but if you look at it from turning it over, that the image is on the outside, not against the body. That is why there's no marks on the body where it's been laying on a slab, where the body would, in a rigor mortis state, would have the impressions of flat spots on the buttocks and so forth. But no, it came in as the soul had left in the cross configuration, and the arms had been pulled to lock because it was in a rigor mortis state. The women who were in the tomb up until 6 p.m., which is the end of the day. That means in the laws at the time, you couldn't embalm a body after 6 p.m. because that was the Sabbath coming on. So that's what it's all about. Now, with Charmaine, she, of course, is an innocent child and heavily influenced by her mother, who is a total harlot. So, what do you say? So it lines up precisely with the verse that we've just read, whereas the light of the sun and the power of the sun, man, that's the demons in men, were shown how to create nuclear fusion, and they've used this to build the nuclear power plants worldwide. And the first one to go down of any importance is, of course, the 11th of March in the year 2011, and that's been spewing out not only depleted uranium, but it's also spewing out plutonium. So if you read the verse after this, it talks about, now remember, this is the Essene revelation. It goes back to Enoch, and this is where the book of Revelation in the New Testament has gained its inspiration to write, in an effort to create a passage in it where there's 144,000 saints and they're all Jews. No way. So the Jews are writing themselves into the script, because the greatest deception of all time is Christianity. I'm not even going to mention the Muslims, because that's just crazy. I mean, I read about 2 pages of the Quran. It is utter bullshit. But with Muhammad, he had one thing right, that he knew that the soul of the Creator was in the baby Jesus, and therefore Jesus Christ was the soul of God. And he went to all of his neighbouring nations, and Ethiopia is one case where the king of Ethiopia accepted it, and that would spread Islam. Now, Islam was a competition to the Catholic Church, but by then the Catholic Church had totally been devoured, and the cruelties that the Catholic Church had done, and the reason for the Catholic Church falling to these demons is because it is the church of the world. So the demons had to stop it. So the demons, working Jews, and the Jews targeted Muhammad. They poisoned him. He had been married twice. His second wife was a Coptic Christian. Her name was Maria. And they had a small child, died at 1 year and 10 months, probably murdered. And then the Quran that was supposed to be wasn't written by Muhammad. That was all obliterated. Anything he said was moved out and forgotten and squashed. And it was taken over by the Jews, who then organised for the Quran to be written. And that's what you have today, a load of bullshit. Talmudic, it's all in there. So therefore women have no part in Islam. We spoke to women over there, and it's okay for a man to go out and have as many affairs as he likes. A woman does it, she gets beheaded. So it's a dreadful, dreadful religion, so there's no place for it. Absolutely. You can't be saved by being a Muslim. The only way to be saved is believe in me, and that's it. So there's not many out there who's going to get the opportunity anymore, because I've been doing this for a very long time now, and my success rate proves that I am the Almighty, because it means that because I can't make any headways, it's only a very, very few people that will support me unto death, which is the important part, and stand up and shout it out to the world. But the reality is that the world is consumed. Every high official is demonised. It goes from the Queen to Charles to William to Philip to the boys of Lady Diana, who love to kill, apparently, what Lady Diana spoke about. Her sons love to kill. So what's that tell you? So now we're at a point where the world is...
It was a lament, wasn't it? My sons like to kill things. So contrary to her own nature. So read the next verse after that. Well, this continues with the seals, the opening of the seals, and I opened the fourth seal. And I saw and beheld the angel of joy, and between her lips flowed the music of life, and she knelt over the earth and gave to man the song of peace. And peace and joy like music flowed through the soul of man, but he heard only the harsh discord of sadness and discontent, and he lifted up his sword and cut off the heads of the singers, and I turned my face away in shame. And I opened the fifth seal, and I saw and the angel of life, and I opened the fifth seal, and I saw and beheld the angel of life, and between her lips flowed the holy alliance between God and man. And she knelt over the earth and gave to man the gift of creation. And man created a sickle of iron in the shape of a serpent, and the harvest he reaped was of hunger and death. And I turned my face away in shame.
So that's Talmudic Judaism. The serpent, the Khazars that are the origin of most Jews in the world today, were never Jews in the first place. And they worshipped the phallic and serpents in the area which is today ancient Khazaria, up by the Caspian Sea into Russia. And that is number one reason why they've targeted Iraq, because that's the cradle of mankind. And there's many things in Iraq that they wanted to obliterate. So these monsters through the United States, and this is the shame, I feel great shame of Canadians and Americans, because they are allowing and have allowed the likes of George Bush Sr., Skull and Bonesman, worships the devil. And what do you expect to get from that? Well, you got George Bush Jr., who is the grandson of Aleister Crowley, the man that is reported to be the most evil man on earth. I mean, he was a psychopath, right? So psychopaths breed psychopaths. So Barbara Bush, of course, a psychopath.
Yes, what was it that Lorraine Moray was saying, that all of their children, they had, 5 children, and they were all
psychopaths.
But they were all affected by the nuclear testings from 1952 to 63, as has all of America, which makes you stupid. It affects the brain. And that they had a daughter that died, and she was sick for a long time, she died. They left the hospital, went straight to a golf course and played a round of golf and did not bury the daughter. And it was, how long after? It was the grandmother. Was it days or months? It was
months.
Either 3 days or 3 months. It was 3 months later that the grandmother of the child buried her, because the Bushes just totally
Psychopath.
socio and psychopaths. So this is what is in control.
So all of the top military people are skull and bonesmen. And when you look at the history of the development of nuclear energy, what do they make with it? Make bombs. But the stupidest thing is that they've been able to get people, let's say in Japan, who have been bombed twice by the Americans, to install, I think there's 17 in just one company. The TEPCO that owns...
TEPCO is the electrical company.
It turns out the shareholders in it are all bankers. So with the meltdown, it's caused by the Stuxnet virus, which they had employed the Israeli company as security for these nuclear reactors.
It's like employing a fox to look after your chickens.
That's right, and leaving the door open. So they installed the Stuxnet virus on a stick, a USB stick. It goes flash drive, and that's in every. This is the whole point. It's in every nuclear reactor in the world. Now, the nuclear reactors themselves, I have shown the world how to solve the problem. And you take your nuclear waste and you can put it on a rocket, send it out into space, get rid of it. And you don't have to use an ordinary type of rocket that could fail on the way up. You use a electromagnetic field to generate the speed of a rocket and blast it out into space. You can get up to 8 or 9, 10,000 miles per hour just up the side of a mountain, just have the thing built on an angle up the side of a mountain. And you'll never have a failure because you just turn the power on, off she goes. And a space shuttle type environment. So you can get rid of all this spent fuel and get rid of it. However, during the Carter administration, he was a nuclear scientist, and although he was also a peanut farmer, being a nuclear scientist, he was aware that there was a way of using up all the energy. At the moment, in these fuel rods, the dangerous is the spent fuel rod. So they use up 7% for energy, and then they've got this 93% that are the spent fuel rods, and these are the ones that are highly dangerous. If they come in contact with air, they heat up to 10,700 some degrees Fahrenheit, and then they just go into a meltdown. And if they contact water on the way through, it forms a hydrogen bomb. but the gases giving off immediately go up into the atmosphere. And so what do you have in Europe and even as far away as Greenland? They are immediately affected by the radiation. And it's not just one form of radiation. In the third meltdown, there's been 4. They talk about the fourth one. I hope it doesn't melt down. It's already melted down. It was the ABC in Australia ran a story on it that there was the 4 meltdowns. MIT in America had said that there was 4 meltdowns within days. I think 5 days of the initial 11th of March 2011. But the third reactor, it had what is called MOT fuel, which is a combination of uranium and plutonium. And they used that in America to build nuclear weapons. However, it should never have been used in a reactor, but they used it. So now what's happening in Fukushima, it's giving off plutonium. And I've suggested that because it is a minute, it's like if you take a metre and divide it by 1 billion, the atom that's floating around is about 1 billionth, 1 nanometre. And it floats in the air and you breathe it in, it'll lodge in your lungs because it's a positive charge. However, with a strong magnetic field against your body, South Pole or North Pole, the positive charge will be either pushed through your body and out. Because think of yourself as being a giant water bottle and floating in the middle of it somewhere is a positive atom. And it's lodged in your lungs primarily, which will give you cancer of the lungs. But if you get a very strong magnetic field, it'll either pull it out or push it through your body. And to avoid inhaling it, you set up 2 poles, 2 north poles, in a magnet, so it's north on both ends. And you can get that in a ring type magnet you can buy on probably in every hardware store in America, but certainly get it on eBay. And you put a bolt through it, so you've got a north pole and a north pole facing that way, and there's a hole in the centre of it. Put a screw in it and pull it together, and the resistance to push it together is quite high. But then you've got a north pole and a north pole. Put it around your neck, put it in your pocket, wear it on your wrists. So if a positive charge, a north pole, if you like, comes anywhere near you, it'll be repelled by the magnet. So likewise, if you've got lung cancer and it's caused by plutonium, you put a north pole against your lungs, and it'll either push it through, or if you put a south pole on, it'll pull it out. So imagine you're in a giant water bottle, because that's what your body is, and these minute plutonium particles in a bunch of small atoms has a positive charge, and it's now stuck to the negative of your body because your body is a negative, but the magnetic field of a very powerful neodymium magnet or any strong magnet will pull it through or push it through, and you'll be free of it. Then you've got to up your pH level of your water that you drink, and as high as possible. If you can get up to 8 of pure water, reverse osmosis water is best. Another one is to boil your water and collect it in an evaporator. These are easy things, you can buy them on the internet. And put bicarbonate of soda in the water, and you can get the pH level up to about 10 or 11. You drink that, drink a lot of it, and your body will become a very high pH. So any virus or anything that is causing a fungus to grow, then, if you've got cancer, it's usually a fungus. Because if you might recall, Royal Raymond Rife was a man in the 30s who developed a microscope that was an optical microscope, and he could see into the cells, and he discovered a crystal that he thought was the cause of cancer. What it turned out to be, when he looked at it, he could put a sound wave in, and that would vibrate, and like the great Caruso singing in an octave of high C would shatter a glass, for example. Well, this would shatter these crystalline structures. The crystalline structures, however, were not natural. They had been manufactured by the Eugenics Society and all these brilliant scientists around the turn of the century. The advances in this type of technology are way and way ahead of what you would possibly imagine at the turn of the century. So in the late 1880s era, they got into these psychopaths and decided they're going to kill off the world populations and reducing them down to what you see in the Georgia Guidestones, which is of course a myth of putting it out there so the human population, who is the victims of all this, is going to read it and then inwardly accept it. And yet, this is how they operate, these psychopaths. They've got to tell you what they're going to do first and then do it and see if you can stop it. And of course, people are so dumbed down and stupid, they don't do any of that. You could walk down the street out the front here and say, listen, see that man over there? Yeah, the big guy? Yeah, that's Christ. Oh, yeah, right. He's got the cure for AIDS, and cancer and all this kind of thing. The Pope's recognised him. Yeah, okay. But the Pope's, what is he? He's a demon, right? So they got everything covered. So if you want to get laughed at, walk out the front of the street and tell them, I know where Christ is. He's in Australia, right? You'll get howls of laughter. Even though the radiation is pouring down, we have our daughters that are in Canada at the moment. They love to ski, two of them, and a boyfriend and a daughter. So it's the worst thing you can do, because the rain is coming down making the snow, which is coming over Fukushima. It's all radiated. Doesn't matter. Ski down the hill. Yeah, well. Do you believe, her mother will say to her daughter, Abby, you believe I found Christ finally after all this searching you? Yes. Well, he says, get the hell out of Canada because this is what's happening. Doesn't matter. Ski down the hill. Yay. Right. We've got another one over in Calgary, Edmonton.
Same place. No, Calgary.
Calgary.
They're both in the same area.
They're both in Calgary now, are they?
Well, Abby's in Banff, only 40 minutes from Calgary.
Fair enough, yeah. Banff is a ski area of the Calgary area, and it's a beautiful place, except it's deadly. And they just don't get it treated, thick skulls. We'll say, well, we'll pay your fare over. Just get the hell out of there. No. So we are expecting that soon one will come down with lung cancer, and then they'll be crying, right? What do? You can't even get my own family to believe me. So
the latest is that Abby's supposed to be coming in September, which is about 3 months.
Abby.
Not Aaron's.
What, after the snow season?
Well, they're going to summer now, so it's summer at the moment.
Oh, of course, yeah. So, getting back to the Essene Revelation, it's the oldest and the original, and you'll find that there's a lot of words in there that they've borrowed to go into the book of Revelation of the King James Bible or the Catholic Bible. But you can see that it's all been plagiarised, and the same applies for the Gospels. Matthew 21:42, referring to the stone the builders rejected has become the head of the corner. Well, that is also from the Essene Gospel, which is much older. They've changed one word, which was pyramid. They've changed it to the head of the corner. The same applies for Psalms 1:8-22. It's talking about the pyramid also, but it has also been changed. We don't want to talk about the pyramid because the pyramid was built by the descendants of Enoch. And the book of Enoch should be in your Bible because it isn't, because it is too beautiful a word of truth. It talks about the planets and their orbits and the angels. You've got different types of angels. You've got angels of the planets, you've got angels that of creation that are the huge men that came to the earth and built the pyramid and built all these wonderful structures like from Stonehenge, and where these rocks, massive rocks, were lifted up and moved by angelic force. It's not a problem for an angel. It's certainly a problem if you are a human being, because you can't comprehend how an angel could do such a thing, or you've been dumbed down and bullshitted to think that no angels anyhow. Yet they say, oh, Jesus is true, yes. And Jesus talked about demons, yes, devils, and talked about the wickedness of the Jews, yes. Yet you all believe what the Jews tell you. Now, what has happened, of course, is the books that were revealed of the protocols of the learned elders of Zion. In number 14, it says, we will forbid Christ. And that's what they're doing. And they're like, we will try to make comments on the most obscure of pages and never gets through, never gets answered. Right? Why? Because the entire internet, in particular Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, is all dominated by a team of watchers that are demon-inspired to forbid Christ, and that's what happened. So, where are we up to, dear?
Haven't a clue.
Time-wise.
Oh, time-wise. That's right, I'm just checking what's going on. All right, we're up to 32 minutes, 26 to go.
Now I'm going to, I've got a very, very complex set of drawings and information in a PowerPoint, which I will be uploading probably today, or at least finish it today. And it may be in 2 sections, it may take over an hour. When you study that, if you've got an open mind and a brain that still works, you'll be able to see the beauty of these things that I've told you. That, for example, you measure from Jupiter to all the stars that could be seen in the old times, so which would be Saturn, Mars, Venus, etc., down into the Sun. And it gives you the distance on the day that I was born, 31.68. Now, if you add that to the child that hurt me the most, which was Charmaine, everything is stacked against her and I being a father and daughter, mainly from the guilt she feels, and yet she was raised by a woman that's a total harlot. So a father has very little influence on a child. If you add the number that is a distance in astronomical units from Jupiter, you'll get the number 3907. And you add that to the number 3168, and that number gives you creation. If you look in the King James Bible, creation is not in it until you get into the New Testament, where Jesus is speaking. So the word creation is not in Hebrew, although it's in the Strong's Concordance, which is a word it's referring to that should be in there and they've taken out. If it's in the Strong's Concordance, which as many words are, it's referring to a word that's in the Old Testament. Yet when you read the Old Testament, or try to find that word, which you can do with a computer these days, it's not there. So why wouldn't creation be in the Old Testament? Well, for that very reason, the two numbers. They see the demons know all this. All these fallen angels, they know that the position of the stars for the children that's going to be born to me, and for myself and my wives, all spell out the Almighty God. And I'll give an example of that. There's in Egypt there is the Apis bulls, Apis-bulls, and the very, very beautiful structures inside a series of tunnels under the desert were discovered 30 odd years ago. And these things weigh 70 to 100 tons, and they come from Sudan and black granite, which is 500 or 600 miles away. And then you've got the red granite from Aswan, which is 500 or 600 miles away, on the other side of a mountain where they were quarried. So you could go there and you can see the quarry today. But there's no way of getting 100 tons or so over the mountain onto a raft down the bloody Nile and then drag it 20 or 30 miles inland and then bury it underground. For what the hell reason? Well, there's 22 of them, and they are measured to, if you've got an engineering background, one of the hardest things to do is hollow out a granite stone and make it perfectly square with no radiuses on the inside and no machine marks. So this could not be done by a hapless Egyptian, right? So these things are buried underground. When that was discovered, the Egyptians, because of the Apis bull legend, they believed that these things, remember this is as big as a car, big as a big van, right? Hollowed out with a lid on top and laser perfect and polished. So they thought, well, they've got to go and have a look inside because it might be full of gold, right? Not remotely considering that these things are sacred. So they started to put a chisel into this very fine line where the top lid fits to this big block underneath, which has been hollowed out, some of them 6 feet deep or 2 metres deep, about 3 metres long on the inside, 1,500 wide, and perfectly smooth and perfectly square and perfectly level, and the lid sits on top. It's almost, you couldn't put a human hair between the two, where the two fit together. So they got to open it, haven't they? So instead of just simply pushing it back, no, that's not good enough. They've got to put wedges in and start to lift them up. So you get something weighs 60 tonnes, 70 tonnes, 30 tonnes, whatever, and then you get the lid on top, and you start putting chisels in. Well, the edges of the granite is like glass and brittle. So what they did, they started jamming these things, and they got it up, and then with about that much, they could then put a light inside, see if there's anything inside. Right? And naturally, there's nothing inside. No mummified bulls or anything else that these idiots used to worship in those days. So this Apis bulls was nearby. So that's what they assumed they were, was a sarcophagus for a bull, a god, a bull. How about a bullshit? Right?
Yep.
So that's how the mentality of those people at the time. And even today, they still think it's true. Oh, look how, I spoke to Egyptians, look how clever the Egyptians were to be able to take these things from the Sudan weighing 50, 60, 100 tons, right? Then drag it across the desert, then put it underground. Unbelievable. Caves, what would they do it for, you know? All right. So if it was built like an octopus, they'd be patting themselves on the back with all arms, right? But this is how stupid these Egyptians are. Even the smartest of them are stupid. To this day, they have a man called Assisi, which he avoided me like a plague when we was over there.
He's now the president.
He's now the president, and they love him. They think the sun shines out his ass.
He's fully aware that the Christ is back.
He's fully aware. He's a Mossad agent. His mother was a Mossad agent, so was his uncle. from Morocco. This is how the Jews do it. They put these Mossad people out there and
generations
build them up
before,
because they know what's going on. They're all demons, right? So naturally, as soon as he doesn't want to see me, that nails him down as being one of the Antichrist, of course. We even gave them the cures for the various diseases, from AIDS to cancer to diabetes, of course, and hepatitis C. And don't want it. 130 million people in Egypt, and they're all, 1/3 of them have got hepatitis C. So it's a depopulation thing, isn't it? So they put these wedges in, and they wasn't happy with just one. They did the whole 22 of them. So they ruined the lids and this beautiful work by smashing these wedges in. And like 30 odd years ago, they could have done it with hydraulics. You just put a chain around the whole thing with a hydraulic jack that'll push 20 tons, and you'll slide the lid back to look inside. You could have done it an hour at a time, right? You've done it in a week. No. They've got to do it with wedges. That's how stupid these people are. Inside the Great Pyramid, which is 7,000 years old, built before the flood, in the King's Chamber, they've got these shafts that point out into space, and they point to constellations so that you can work out when these constellations are moving through the precession of the equinox, the descending passages and the which points towards the polar star at all times, up until the 11th of December 2011, when the Earth's axis shifted. No longer do they point to the North Zone. So the same applies for these, what they call air shafts. They're about yay square, go in and up. And these are at a set angle, so therefore you know mathematically what they're pointing at in space. So in order to use that to their advantage, they get in there with these jackhammers. And they've got this beautiful thing that's 7,000 years old, and they jackhammer a hole in it to put a fan in, so they switch it on, and the exhaust we pushed up into the stonework of the pyramid and dissipated because of the tourists going in and out, breathing in there. They want to get rid of this hot, moist air. While they're doing it, a 2 metre square chunk of the wall cracks off and falls, hopefully killing a couple of them, but it probably didn't. So when you go in there today, there's a great chunk of the wall missing and a fan stuck in it. Because they ruined the wall, they still had a hole, they finished the hole off and put this... They could have put the fan on the outside and stuck it on with silicon. They could have built a fan and just leaned it against the wall. Right? No. They've got to get a jackhammer and attack a 7,000-year-old structure, which is one of the most important buildings on earth. Is the altar of the Lord in the midst of Egypt. Now, if you want to go into the Queen's Chamber, it's $2,000 US. On the outside, there was 19 7-ton pure alabaster white stones that are on the original 144,000 that were on the outside of the structure. 5 of them have been taken away. So then, the remaining ones, to get the numbers up again, they started to slice with a saw, a grinder, to make it appear, when you count them, you've got your 19. So what did they do with the 5? What gave any human being the right to deface the Great Pyramid like that? Well, I'll tell you who, the Jews. Why? Well, any discovery that's made in Egypt, there is a right that has been purchased by National Geographic, which is owned by the Jews. They want to know what happens first. So they pay, what was it, $100,000 or $200,000 a year to the Antiquities Department to make sure that they get first crack at it. Is that what I'm saying is correct? Was it National Geographic owned by the Jews?
National Geographic, Jew, yep. Pays the one dude at the head of Antiquities or whatever, 230 grand a year for the rights to everything that comes out of Egypt. So it's totally controlled, which is all the protocols of Zion, because they say very clearly that they will control all of the archaeological digs all over the planet. So they're controlling the information that comes for them. And the BS that's been fed through the TV, the History Channel, National Geographic, and every other Zionist-owned publication and media outlet for decades. So you've got no chance. You've got no chance of being told the truth by anywhere, by anyone on the planet. Now, I'm particularly pissed off right now because this is what we get all of the time. Let's make it really, really clear. You are in the judgment. It's actually the sentencing of the judgment, because everybody has been judged already before you were reborn to the earth. So this is the gathering. The Christ has made his decision. The enemy of all mankind are the Jews, the Zionists. The Christians supporting them are the worst. I think I prefer a Jew because they know.
At least they're honest.
They're honest about how dishonest they are. Whereas the Christians are so totally arrogant. There is not a bone. There is not a fibre of humility within them. Now, I am answering an email. It's come into Yahweh's email, and I have seen already a comment that this idiot has left on, it was the NCR and the Antichrist, where I was explaining how the National Catholic reporters are censoring the news that the Christ is returned. Of course, they have to. They pledge allegiance to the Antichrist. So this idiot has found Yah's email address, and he's got the subject, now what? And he says, tell me my question, then answer it, and I'll confess and repent. So this is my response so far. I'm about to give him a 2x4 around the head. I said, who the hell are you? You're in the sentencing of the judgment that has already occurred in the heavenly realm before you were born again to the earth. Your only chance to get out of hell is to recognise the truth of all that the Christ has revealed for decades and been abused, mocked, called everything under the sun for revealing the truth, because nobody likes the messenger and they particularly hate the judge. Now, I'm going to go on with this idiot because this is the kind of thing that we get all the time. Oh, if it's not the lotto numbers, it's what's my middle name, or how many hairs are on my head, or questions, tell me my question and answer it and I'll believe. Well, guess what? Doesn't matter. We don't care. Not looking for converts, not looking for followers, not looking for anybody to believe. It's you're either ordained to wake up and get it as one of the saints, or you're not. If you don't have the spirit of humility to understand that you have been and do the research, because it's all out on the net, all over there, all the work that Yah has done, including all of the work that the trolls have done to mock, scoff, abuse, reject. It's all there. The work has been done. So your name is Craig Lund, L-U-N-D. Take a hike. Get it. Remain in hell. Stay here. Couldn't care less. Is the message clear? Unless I mean, do you have anything further to add?
Hasta la vista, baby.
Actually, no, it's adios. Hasta la vista means see you again. Adios is goodbye. Sick to death. It's been decades, absolute decades. It's been a spilling of the guts, if you like, the despair of God on the earth, who has been treated worse than any other man on the planet. Do I make myself clear? He's not answering anybody's stupid and pathetic questions after all of this time and the revelation of who he is to a dumbed down, devoured mankind. What else can you expect from somebody in the USA where they've done all of their nuke testing? It makes you stupid. Well, Craig Lund, you are stupid. So adios. I'll post this back to you or send it to you as a personal message. Adios. And anybody else out there who does not have the humility to understand that you have been totally devoured and deceived. And I mean, get on your face, prostrate, and weep. Because it's the children right now of Japan have been targeted by these monsters supported by you all in the Christian world, and you still crap on about loving Israel. You make us sick. You have been spewed out of our mouths already. How devoured can you get? It's the children, the Muslim children, who have been devoured by this insane religion of their stupid parents. They are trapped within this insanity with no hope of getting out.
The women, it's unbelievable how they treat the women.
So, continue.
Well, how much time we got?
Well, we're at 52 minutes, so we've got 5 to go.
Well, read a bit more of your revelation.
Yes, okay.
So
all right.
Remember what she's reading here, this is ancient stuff. It is the original, and you'll recognise certain phrases that are used that have been plagiarised and put into your book of Revelation in the King James Bible or the Catholic Bible. So anyone in a position of power is demonised. Right? We've got the Australian Prime Minister, who is a Jesuit. He's over in America right now sucking up to Obama.
Now, also, we have to make clear that the mark of the beast is not mentioned in the Revelation. That is to get you all in fear and terror and all the rest of it, and over this mark of the beast. It is not mentioned in the Essene Revelation. So I finished it yesterday where I read about the beast out of the sea. That has to be your oil refineries, your oil rigs, your oil refineries. The demonic realm has control of the banking, the oil, and now big agriculture. That's what it's heading for. Your hospital, your medical. Obamacare is demonic
Well,
care.
the big hospital in Tokyo is owned by the same people that own Tedco, which own Fukushima.
The company that runs it. Now, this is important. Brothers, drop your swords and take hold of my hand. Leave off this defiling and desecration of she who has given thee birth and he who has given thee thy inheritance. So it's talking about the earthly mother being your mother and the heavenly father. So you have the one who has given birth to you, but the one who has given thee thine inheritance. So that comes from the Father. Now listen to this. For you the days of buying and selling are over. So he's talking to the ones who've been fighting, killing over oil. Does that not talk about now? The monster, the beast out of the sea is all to do with the oil companies and the wars that are being fought for the sake of oil. For you the days of buying and selling are over too, the days of hunting and killing. For he that leadeth into captivity will go into captivity, and he who kills with the sword must be killed by the sword. All of you in the military who are fighting these wars, your end is decided from what you have chosen to do. It's the reaping what you have sown. And the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn, because no man buys their merchandise any more. So who are the merchants of the earth? You banksters, you Jews who call themselves Jews and are not, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers. Wonderful news last night. The son of the oldest Rockefeller, who's still alive by a thread, died in a plane crash. Well, that's good news. These are the very ones, in spite of his good works, he is the son of a monster and has continued the empire of a monster, the oil companies. The merchants of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearls and fine linen and purple dyes and silk and scarlet and marble and beasts and sheep and horses and chariots and slaves and souls of men, all these you cannot buy and sell, for this is buried in a sea of blood, because you have turned your back on your father and mother and worshipped the beast who would build a paradise of stone, the corporate beast, the oil companies, the British royals, the Rothschilds, the Rockefellers, all of them. Drop thy swords, my brothers, and take hold of my hand. So the hand of mercy is being extended to them and our fingers clasped. I saw him that this is what the Christ has been doing ever since he's been reborn to the earth. Extending the hand. How long has he been saying to the military, drop the swords, come home. Thou shalt not kill. Killing is not of God. Nobody. No excuse. And I saw in the distance a great city, white and shining on the far horizon, glowing alabaster. And there were voices and thunders and lightnings, and there was a great earthquake, such as what was not since men were on the earth, a mighty an earthquake, and so great, and the great city was divided into 3 parts, and the cities of the nations fell. And the great city came in remembrance before God to give her the cup of the wine of the fierceness of his wrath, and every island fled away, and the mountains were not found. So which city is that? It can be but Jerusalem. Am I right? Mm-hmm. It's Jerusalem. This is talking at the time. It's London and Rome, Washington, D.C., and New York. These are the cities of this time which have come out of Jerusalem originally, where the crucifixion took place. And it goes on about the great hail out of heaven and every stone. I'll move right along. And I heard the harpists. And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the songs of day and night and the everlasting gospel to preach to them that dwell on the earth, unto them that have climbed from the pit of slime and stand naked and washed by rain before the throne. What are we talking about? World War I, World War II? These are the souls that have already climbed from the pit. And the angel cried out, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him that made heaven and earth and the sea and the fountains of the waters. Now, bearing in mind, World War II ended 1945 officially. The Christ was reborn to the earth towards the end of World War II. The abomination, the tribulation, the 7 years of that tribulation. And I saw heaven open and beheld a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he does judge. His eyes were like a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. And he was cloaked in blazing light, and his feet were bare, and his name is called the Word of God. And the holy brotherhood followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And they entered the eternal, infinite garden, and in whose midst stood the tree of life, and the rain-washed naked throngs came before them, trembling to receive their judgment, for their sins were many, and they had defiled the earth. Yea, they had destroyed the creatures of the land and sea, and poisoned the ground, fouled the air, and buried alive the mother who had given them birth. Hello? Is this not the time that we are living in? Brought to you by the Zionists, the Jews who call themselves Jews and are not, headed up by the Rothschilds, and their nemesis on the other side of the ocean in the Rockefellers, Standard Oil, J.D. Rockefeller. That's where it all began, in this period of time. We have to end because I've gone over time, but it continues. So, Craig Lund, go to hell. Remain in hell. It's not about the Christ and you will repent. Oh, goody, goody. Forget it. It's judgment time.